I was just saying, it's really hard to tell until somebody starts speaking. This is a regular meeting of August 13th, 2026. We do have one present this evening. Everyone here, that's great. I'd like to welcome everyone. If you have a desire to speak on an item tonight or to speak during the non-agenda public communications portion of the agenda, please complete a speaker slip and bring it up to staff. We'll make sure that we call on you at the right time. I'll try to call on you at the right time. You'll definitely be called on. With that, I'd like to ask Chris Saunders to provide the invocation, and after that, we'll have Mr. Svensson lead us through
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the responsibility and the opportunity we have to be together as a board to serve our community. We pray for guidance as we go through this agenda and hear from the speakers that we will be able to be guided on the right things to do that will benefit the community and help those who are hurting. We're grateful for all the staff and all the work that they do. And we're grateful for all those who have shown up tonight. We say these things in your nice Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
You may be seated.
Do we have any speakers this evening for the non-agenda items? Great, thank you. With that, then, we're going to intervene by opening the public hearing to consider the 2027-2028 Central Appraisal District of Johnson County Reappraisal Plan. Mr. Carroll, will you be making a presentation on that, or do you need together?
Next time we'll talk about that. Okay, what we've done since the last board meeting is we've taken a look at the reappraisal plan that was existing before, and we have made various recommendations to for changes to that plan. And what we're really presenting tonight is two caps, and I think they're probably the same or identical. Oh, okay. So I believe that their recommendations are very similar, except for one item. And so we'll talk about the pros and cons of that. And essentially, the changes that we are recommending to the plan this time is, I say, go back to the 3-year reappraisal cycle, that we have in the other plan. So really, it's not a change per se, it's just changing gears, and moving it out for a 3-year appraisal cycle. The second essential element is that we're calling for clear and convincing evidence, which is a legal term, that would be required to support any increases in property values of 5% or more over the property value determined in the previous year. And then the last one is to handle the circuit breaker prospectively instead of just deleting it. A lot of you are probably aware that the way they wrote the law, the circuit breaker expires at the end of this year, 2026, it just goes away. So Congress is either going to extend it or they're going to let it expire. And so what we've done is we've come up with language that says we'll accommodate it in the reappraisal plan either way. If they extend it, then it's extended for the plan. If they don't extend it, it's automatically removed from the plan. And so that's the primary differences that we're recommending. There are some other things, a little more detail that we're recommending that I think improves the plan. But essentially, and I'm happy to let Mitch talk about it, the other real consideration is not a 3-year reappraisal plan. And the reason Mitch is supporting that, I believe, is because then we can align that with the property value study. You're probably all aware that the property value study is done every 2 years. So, it just doesn't mix with the 3-year cycle. So even though the law provides for us to have a 3-year cycle, it also only provides to have a every 2-year property value study. And so, certainly for administrative convenience, and Mitch, you can address any other issues that it may support. If we go to a 2-year reappraisal cycle, it would more accommodate that. Is that approximately correct?
Most of my reappraisal plan input wasn't related to the property value study. It was more about the work we need to do to improve our appraisal models and kind of the inequity that is shown on the different categories of property, and the desire to not only be at market value, but also be equally uniform to the different categories of property. Because I think if an appraisal district is not at that level, they should work on getting to that level. The property value study is something that occurs. It's happened in 2025. It's going to happen again on 6 of the 9 jurisdictions in school districts in Johnson County in 2026. And then there'll be a full reappraisal year in 2027. So I gathered the staff to go over the previous reappraisal plan, and we set forth to put the document together that would be a more detailed plan of how we're actually planning on moving through this process. And with 2027 being a time to work on our values, and then 2028 would be a non-reappraisal year where we would
likely leave most of the values the same, and then after the 2-year cycle, 2029 would be a reappraisal year, 2030 would be a non-reappraisal year. So that's how the 2-year cycle would go. We did get disappointing results with the property value study, but once again, that's just one organization's analysis of our performance. So the real goal here is to get the values in Johnson County correct and equal and uniform. So that was kind of my focus. Okay, and I will say that it was our intention from a subcommittee standpoint to adopt all the other changes that you recommended. So what we did was we started with the plan that was provided by Mitch and the staff, and then we just made these individual changes to it, to reflect the 3 years to the 5% and then the circuit breaker issue. So I think the discussion should be around whether we as a board want to stay with the 3-year cycle or if we want to switch to the 2-year cycle. I certainly don't recommend one.
Tina? I'm sorry, I was late.
I understand
Would I be able to speak about this?
it's a public hearing, so as soon as the staff presentation.
Oh, I didn't know.
Then I'll open it up to.
Oh,
I
sorry.
wasn't sure if you wanted to speak in the public hearing, like that public forum, because you didn't.
I didn't know I wanted to speak until I just heard about this.
Then we should probably do the presentation first, so as soon as we're done with this part, before there's any board deliberation, we'll open it up.
Thank you, sorry.
Before we deliberate, we should hear from members of the audience who want to speak since it's a public hearing. Did you want to add something, John, or did you want to?
Discuss.
Okay, so then let's take our public comments and then
Okay.
we'll have that input before we start.
Okay. How many public comments have you guys?
Well, since it's a public hearing, there may be some who haven't submitted a still in the public hearing, so we don't know. But I will call on Ms. Jones, see if I have a speaker slip from you.
Well, that's to say something else, but I just wanted to participate in this, and I didn't know if I missed the part.
You did miss the public forum, so we'll have to go back to that.
As far as this appraisal plan goes, the market has been softening, so if it does not get appraised this next year, then a lot of citizens are going to be out of luck to be able to have their properties properly evaluated and, we appraised this year, so we're not going to appraise next year. And if the market continues to soften, stay flat or soften, then that would be robbing people of the opportunity to have their properties properly evaluated. And so I think trying to forecast too far into the future, I think it's far more prudent to put it on a year-by-year basis. If the market starts to go up and you want to put it 2 years, I don't think a citizen is going to be adversely affected and, say, oh no, you have to evaluate my property so you can catch on upward mobility. But by not appraising last year, there are many people that, aren't necessarily paying attention. This whole thing is so confusing. Not appraising when it was starting to soften last year did not work out well for the public. We're now in a flat, and who knows what's going to happen. So I encourage, and I don't know if anybody agrees with that, but if your property is not valued next year and the market continues to go down, but your value gets held, is that really what you want? So as far as that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And if you just stay for the whole meeting, your eyes and ears will be open.
Do we have any other comments? With no other comments, then I will close the public hearing. At this point, the board can deliberate about the item.
Okay, she brought up a great point. One is that if you delay correction in your car, you'll run off the road. If you delay correction too long on appraisals, you're going to run it off the road. And I feel that a 2-year cycle is a good compromise because the amount of resources done checking and rechecking and checking and rechecking and blah, 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 can end up being kind of wasteful if you reappraise. I mean, because what people would really want is like real-time appraisal. Like, what was it last Wednesday? But that's impossible. It can't be done. So my vote is for every 2 years, just put it there, leave it there, and that way the time will factor itself in to see corrections, not minor changes, and will give us the vantage point to keep track of the secret number that we have to get to every year.
I was gonna, more question for Larry, I guess, the 3-year reappraisal plan we were on did give us the option to early reappraise money.
So that's what I was going to bring up.
So I kind of, personally, I like the 3-year plan because in an upward market, it gives us that buffer. But we always have the option to reappraise. If we see the market falling like we did just recently.
Right, yeah, in fact, I should have brought that up. Since we didn't change it, I didn't say anything about it, but already included in the plan, and it will still be included in the plan, is that the board has the ability to call for a reappraisal at any time. And so if we see a significant change in the market, we can say, okay, well, we're going to reappraise, we're not going to stick with the 3-year cycle. And in fact, that's exactly what happened only months ago. This board voted to reappraise, even though the reappraisal plan, didn't have it on the schedule yet. And so we did that. So yes, we can still do that at any time. And we could make it 2 years and say we could reappraise, after one.
But by making it 2 years, we'd be mandated to reappraise it.
That's right. Yeah, then we'd have to do that every 2 years. I like having my cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened this year was, this will be some more light will come to us shortly, is that Mr. Fast did the best he could with the program we had. And as you know, we had to do a lot of workarounds. So tonight we'll be discussing some inadequacies in the system. So just hold on, we'll get to that, and I think it'll shed more light on some of the things that we're going to take action on.
We're having a presentation, it's a later item on the agenda, but we won't be taking action on it, it's a presentation. Like, obviously, you will all be entitled to see at the same time that we do. With the 2-year or a 3-year adopted today, when would, since we did a reappraisal this year, that would mean if it were a 2-year, then it would be conducted in 2028, and a 3-year would be 2029, absent.
Well, the way we wrote it on the subcommittee is that we would carry the 2026 appraisal into 2027. So there's no reappraisal in 7. And so it would be in effect for 26, 27, 28. It wouldn't happen again until 29 unless the board decided, that it wanted to. Now, Mitch is recommending alternatively, let's go ahead and just reappraise for 2027, get a good solid baseline, there, and then let that roll for 2 years.
Which would then mean 2027 and then 2029.
Yes. Well, with the sort of dour tone of what was all going on, I think think that Mitch was the guy in the middle of the fray. And I would kind of go with his thoughts, because, I mean, nobody's throwing rocks at me. So that's,
I think we know that there was challenges with this appraisal in software, so I think we have to look at it next year.
2027.
Yeah. So, I would concur with that.
You feel like we should go ahead and reappraise in 2027?
Yeah,
And then hold it for 2 more years?
I think so, to hopefully have some issues with our software worked out. We're getting more accurate appraisals.
You know, I mean, Kim made a good point, and we talked about it over and over and over. The longer you freeze something, the more risk there is. The risk could be, and when we froze it because we were afraid it was going to go up drastically, because it had been going up drastically, and people were going crazy, and so we froze it. But likewise, if things are going to go down, you don't want to have them frozen, and that's the reason we wrote the provision in the plan that said, if we think there's a significant change, we immediately call for a reappraisal. And so again, we could do it, but, you know, again, if the board feels like we want to go ahead and do it in 2027, then I would go along with doing it then and then 2 more years.
And market color of weapons, we were good for it. That's a positive, that's a big positive. Because if you don't plan for the worst, then oops. So I agree with you.
I think from a staff perspective, having the certainty rather than, we all know they got the nod from us really late this year. So you combine the board's late action with a system transition, and those two things coupled together really put the squeeze on. So doing an appraisal in 2027 will give more time for quality control, quality checking, working out bugs, whatever actions may need to be taken, and then one in 2029.
And if we were going to do that, I would recommend retaining the provision that says if we think we need to begin in 2028, we can do it.
I agree. For those of you who have come religiously to our meetings, you've heard us discuss that we've all felt that the market was soft and down. And just hang in there, you're going to hear some explanations coming up that will help to fix some of the problems that are going on.
My thought on this would be, as far as reappraising next year, would be, the question of conditions. Do you think we'd be ready to actually do the reappraisal? Because I hate for us to vote and say, yes, let's do it, and then, maybe there's some votes we can't continue working on. So maybe leave that on the table for a vote, like we just recently did, and say, hey, we're going to do either 2 or 3 years, agree on that, and then if Mitch says, hey, we're ready to go, then we can, give that a thumbs up and all take a vote at that time.
Well, generally, the appraisal software has the ability to make changes and have a value based on a specific set of criteria and time, sales data, that sort of thing, but also maintain a value of whatever it was the previous year or wherever it was 2 years ago. And the appraisal district staff are planning on undergoing about a 7-month project that involves neighborhood review, land value review, cost schedule review, depreciation schedule review, to get the what I might call the machine-driven numbers or the computer-driven numbers more in line with what the data appears to be from the real estate market, as well as a more uniform methodology that I think has been missing in the past. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the values need to go up or down at the basically time we send out appraisal notices. So there's that component. And really the thrust of all this is based upon information that was shared with me during the initial hiring process as well as organizational audit. Many of those things have not seen as much attention as they should have had. In fact, it appears there are several years that went by where things were not perhaps updated and utilized in a more uniform fashion. So that means August 15th through March 15th, we plan on undergoing that process. Based on what we learned from the previous year, even if we're utilizing the same software, we kind of learned quite a bit about how to maneuver through that process. So I feel comfortable we'll be able to produce better results than we saw in 2026, as well as better results than what existed in 2025, 24, 23 with the software that was called Beyond Appraisal, that is called the legacy software. And so that is my goal, is to provide the board of directors with the confidence that the staff of the appraisal district can appraise accurately and uniformly, and that the property owners of Johnson County can have confidence in the appraisal notice values that we send out to them. And the taxing entities can understand that the values that we're sending them are accurate. And so that was the plan going into the development of our reappraisal plan.
It was kind of a binary question. I did a binary.
He gave a John Wood answer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so I deserve it. No, but is 2 years a good thing?
John wants to know if you want to reappraise in 2027.
I think that producing a better appraisal roll in 2027 would be a benefit to all the stakeholders in the appraisal district. So that's what I would prefer to do.
Including taxpayers.
Right, yeah. I call them property owners, yeah.
Well, you call them stakeholders, which is correct.
All property owners, taxing entities, government agencies are all involved in this process.
I want to say something with respect to our new appraiser, chief appraiser, Mr. Fast. He came into a 40-year situation that we are trying to improve. And we have total faith in Mr. Fast, and he is working with certain people, which you'll hear about shortly. But I just want to reaffirm to him that we're thankful to have him as our chief appraiser, and we feel, at least I can say, that he's doing a fantastic job, and what you'll see in the next year will hopefully be something that the citizens of Johnson County will be very happy with.
I think based on the information that I've heard from everybody, I would be comfortable in making a motion that we accept all the changes that were proposed by the subcommittee, which were based on the staff recommendations, except we would not go to a 3-year cycle. We would reappraise in 2027 and then 2-year cycle from there. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No opposed? So that motion passes. We'll make the amendments to the positive. Finish so we can get it posted.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. So now, I took that item out of order, if you hadn't noticed. So now what I would like to do is I would like to just take public non-agenda communications. Ms. Jones did submit a request to speak, so give her time to address us.
No, I praise to praise to Mitch for the good job he's doing and the staff. I have made them aware of some glitches in our, sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that's using the website. And when I find that there's a problem, I let him know, and then Amy so graciously gets right on it, or gets on the process to get it started. Like, we had 0 values in the CAD detail, and I'm getting ready for protests, and I've got zeros, but when I'm looking at comparing properties, and that doesn't work. And today, Mitch and Aaliyah came out and did a class about the ag special valuation process at the Johnson County Agri-Life Center. And there was a realtor there who said, I've been in business for 7 years, and it's the first time I've seen anybody come out of the appraisal district to talk to the community. And then when we had that meeting last time, even though nobody understood the appraisal process any better after our doctorate level presentation, but they just felt like this is a guy we can trust. And so Johnson County is in a fantastic place to have somebody who wants to listen and be responsive. And if there's any way that they can help, they will. The customer service staff is phenomenal here. And I have heard so few. Our COO is so responsive. I've had several clients need to call her. Because it's not perfect, there's some issues, but I believe them to be addressed, and that things are, I mean, what can't improve? But that we are doing all together, everybody working together. I have personally driven Cynthia and Dawn absolutely bonkers in the ARB department, because my first year being a property tax consultant, I was not doing all my paperwork correct, but they've been very gracious. So Johnson County CAD, not exactly for the same reasons Craig humbly say that we've got the best in the business state, but we really do have a phenomenal group, because I've seen people across the state, and some are downright criminal. So Johnson County citizens, we do have a great CAD. And here's some of our customer service right here. This is how much they're dedicated to improving.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
You're welcome.
With that, we'll move on to our consent agenda. On our consent agenda this evening, we have the first item, which is approving minutes of the June 11th regular meeting, the July 7th workshop, the July 9th regular meeting, and the July 24th special meeting. So if you thought we were busy this summer, we were. And then the second item is the monthly financial reports for May and June. So I'll entertain a motion to approve those unless you have any questions.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept.
I second the motion.
Okay, a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so now we'll resume with our agenda items in the order shown on the agenda, since we took one item out of order. Item B1 is to review, discuss, and take action. Pardon? I did, with that, with the same motion. To the vote on consent. Review, discuss, and take action to adopt a resolution to approve and adopt the revised 2026 Board of Director Policy Manual of the Central Appraisal District of Johnson County. I know on our subcommittee reports, we've been reporting out for several months that Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Trammell, and I have been working on a draft of a board policy manual. So that's what you have in your agenda package this evening. It is not a brand new policy cut from, full cloth. This is started with our last policy, which has been adopted in 2017. And the changes are really meant to reflect changes in the law. Some things we thought a little specific, like it says the administrative assistant will do this or do that. We've changed that language so that those responsibilities are with our chief appraiser, and then the chief appraiser can delegate it to whomever. But the real changes incorporate recent changes in the law, really clarify the roles and responsibilities of the board versus the chief appraiser, and then updated procedures that with our review we thought were either unclear or inconsistent, or more speakers who came to a meeting than they were going to be limited to 1 minute. And so it's things like that we changed that said, that's up to the chair and the board to make those decisions. We didn't want it to be in a policy somewhere. So with that, I don't know if you have any questions about anything that's within the policy. Mr. Tepper, we went back and forth with several versions, so hopefully we caught everything that was, that looked wonky or things like misspellings, those kinds of things. Did you want to add anything, Ms. Euromerides, since you were also on the subcommittee?
From being on the subcommittee, I'll say that I'm perfectly comfortable with the language that we've got in the new board policy, and I'm going to make a motion to accept it as written.
I'll second that motion, and I want to compliment you. I read through it, and I thought you did a wonderful job.
Thank you, sir. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. None opposed? Motion passes. Will that be posted on the website once it's adopted? Which I know it's a board policy, but I think I've seen other agencies that post.
Yes, certainly can. There is a page for the board of directors, and that can be included on that page.
Okay, if you could, please. Oh. Does the motion need to specify that we're adopting a resolution that approves the policy?
Yes, please. We have resolution policy first.
Are we not, it was in the agenda item, there was an actual resolution, but I don't know if staff has it to be reconciled. So can we amend that motion, Mr. Trammell, to adopt the resolution?
I hereby amend the motion to accept the policy as written and include the resolution to be signed by the chairman and secretary.
And I'll second it again.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Mr. Martin is on that. Great. We've already acted on the reappraisal plan since we had our public hearing. At this time, item 3 is our presentation by J.W. Marshall with AIO Inc.
And before we start, there's going to be the presentation on the screen. Is that correct, Mr. Marshall? Yes. So I'd suggest everybody either come to this side or turn your chairs so you can see the presentation. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah, let's go see. Looks like California.
J.W. Marshall, I'm a resident, Joshua, Texas. I live in the Sundance district. Couple of things to preface. I own a small software company. We're developers. We're not experts on the subject matter that we're going to talk about. I want to thank our chief appraiser, Mitch Bass, who's taken an enormous amount of time, effort, and energy out of his day to help us develop this product. To my neighbors, I want to say that this is not a people problem. Mitch, the CAD board, the CAD office, they inherited a problem, and it's a software problem. And it's a very complicated software problem, as has already been discussed by the board this evening, some of the complexities. The complexities that have been addressed this evening, we have solved algorithmically. We have cross-referenced with all of the data that we're going to present this evening has been cross-referenced across the AIOO, the USDAP, legislation, specifically 25 subchapters A through B, are going to play a big role in the presentation this evening relative to evaluations as they currently stand. Huge thanks to Craig Hundley, who started this whole process back in 2019. If not for him, nobody on this board would be on this board, and I certainly wouldn't be here So thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
What we're going to show you tonight is it's a mirror. This is not a reflection on a single person on the board in the CAD, nowhere. Again, it's a software problem. Bridge, we call it Bridge. Bridge is a cross-reference Johnson County we have cross-referenced Johnson County's 2026 appraisal roll against 3,161 actual sales. We don't need to wait on PDS, property value study, ever. We have the software, the technology to appraise every single day as you would like and have updated sales data compared to the properties that we live in here in Johnson County. That's part of what we'll present this evening in the presentation. Jessica, that one, works at the CAD office, the front desk. She's the arrow catcher.
That's a good name.
The first time I went in there was about 6 weeks ago. I had my bow, arrow loaded, ready to go. I cannot say enough thank yous to your professionalism, expertise in the subject matter, and the fact that you're having to deal with 2 different software systems. Very accommodating. Can't say thank you enough. And that speaks to Mitch directly, being that it's his department. So thank you. Executive summary, this is the Bridge cross-reference data, 2026 appraised values, 3,100 properties that were sold from August of 25 through 26. Of course, you see the averages, the meridians, etc. You'll see the numbers in red. Probably the only person that's going to understand this in the room will be Mr. Fast. That's the ratio. We're at 76%. The IAOO requires us to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, I'm recalling from memory, 95 to 110%, somewhere in that range. Real plus or minus a couple of percentage points. Why is this relative? It's counterintuitive to think that a lower than 110% number would be good for our property taxes. The opposite's true. The closer we get to the 100% number, and I'll show this later on, the closer we can get to 90 to 110, the IAOO target, the closer we can get to that number, the lower my personal property taxes are going to be, as well as everyone else's. Under assessment hurts the homeowners, and this is exactly how. The tax rate is set after the values are set. CAD property values total roughly $30 billion right now. Taxing entities set budgets. Tax rate, your tax bill appraised value times that tax rate. This is the math. Accurate values would produce a $40 billion roll and a tax rate of 0.55%. On a $300,000 home, the tax bill would be roughly $1,650. With the 24% under assessment that we currently set at, our total roll is $30 billion. The tax rate is 73%, again 27% below the IAOO. What that equates to, if you have a $300,000 home, is roughly $2190. This is what happens when we meet the standards. Modest home, $200,000. Tax bill, $1,100. $251 less. I'll just take it all the way to the difference. This is how much less you'll pay in these categories of homes when our tax rate meets the IAOO standard. The numbers that we produced that we're showing you this evening were all pulled from JCAD, State Comptroller, IAOO, USPAP. This is data that we just imported into our software engine to produce the actual numbers. These are not made up. The state did a survey that was discussed by the board this evening. Mr. Fast pointed out that the results were not good. These are the results. The ISBs reported here, invalid, 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 invalid. One valid. Same conclusion from the independent analysis that was done that the board's talked about. The numbers are identical. The combined picture, now when you see the USPAP grade up here at B, the USPAP does not grade a district, a CAD, a county. They don't grade it. Our software produced this grade relative to meeting requirements of the USPAP, the IAO, all of the necessary legal tools that we're supposed to meet. This is where we set. Or this is where we set right now. Again, this is inherited. Mr. Fast, the CAD board, the CAD office, they inherited the D grade. A lot of the things that the board spoke about this evening will help improve that grade. The software, once instituted, will improve the grade exponentially and rapidly. This is the software that we developed. Again, all of the data is pulled straight from publicly available websites, from the comptroller's office, from the CAD office, etc. These numbers are derived from those publicly available resources. Here's an example of how the software works. With the real-time engine, which is working right now, we pushed play on August 5th. On August 5th, we had 106,358 parcels. By August 11th, because we're still in a process of certification, is that correct? Is that being completed, Mr. Vance?
The certification estimate was completed on July 27th. There'll be another certification at the end of this week, which means that the appraisal roll has over 95% of the protest resolved. We were at 94.78 on July 27th.
Absolutely concur. We had 95% as well. So there's still there's still movement in the parcels in some of the numbers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we detected here. This is what the engine detected, is a movement from 106 to 105. 31 parcels in the certification window. This is what the engine does. Why is this valuable to this board? This is real-time information that the board, any member, sitting from the comfort of their rocking chair at home, if you wish, or your cell phone anywhere, you can pull this up and see exactly where the Central Appraisal District stands right now in real time. This engine runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and updates automatically. Anything the CAD office changes, the engine detects and pulls it in as data. My district, Sundance, experienced district-wide a substantial increase in our property values. My particular home went from I was flat at 416 for 4 years. That data is not on here. We went from 416 to 757 in 1 year. Why was my question. As I began to dig into it for myself, I saw that it was a software problem. Once I realized that, I came down as a board. Jessica, the whole team were accommodating. We helped. They were infinitely helpful. We did a protest right at the counter. I brought the evidence. Luckily for my particular little circle, we had a property sell this year within the last 12 months. So we had real-time, on the ground sales data. What we did is we extrapolated the square footage, the acreage, then it's just a math problem. You compare similar to similar, they can be years apart in build, they can be different acreage, you still have an extrapolated number per square foot that you can base your protest on, which is what I did. I'm now at 298. Had I not said anything, I would be at 757. When I noticed this problem, I went around the circle. We live in a 1.3 mile circle, and knocked on my neighbors' doors. This is the map that you see up here on just a few of the neighbors that I protested for them. This particular property here, Mr. Sapp, he was flat at 350-ish something. He spiked to 866, guys. And the reason that this is so egregious, on our circle, Mr. Sapp, are you here? Yes, sir. On our circle of all of the properties, when you compare them, okay, his relative to square footage, size of the land, and so forth, he should have been the lowest relative to the spike, the 866,000. Again, we used the data of the real-time sale on that circle, provided the evidence to the CAD board, and protested down to 279. In 2024, this county had 20,283 protests. We can blame that on Mr. Hundley. We have it our way, it'll be 100. 20,000 people. Jessica, did you shake 10,000 of those hands?
I mean, they came in on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's man hours. And let's speak to the board correctly. That's time, effort, energy. That's man hours. That's quantifiable numbers. We extrapolated the math on 20,000 people. We looked up what everybody, I don't know how much you paid. We know what everybody gets paid. When you extrapolate the math out, if you remove 20,000 protests, that's man hours, you're talking $1.1 million. $1.1 million in time, effort, energy, etc. The total value contested. This is, I mean, I can't even begin to wrap my mind around what $6.65 billion looks like. But this was the total amount contested, 64 ARB hearings a day. We reduced $131 million. We took 131 out of $6.65 billion. In my Sundance district, right here, there's 85 homes. We looked up all 85 homes. Of the 85 homes, 65 of them have the same increase in appraised value that you can see right here. I have only been able to contact personally roughly 25 of those 85 homes. Why is that relevant? It's relevant because while I was able to help myself and 19 other people, 60 of my neighbors are going to experience this. Because they don't know. They don't know what to do. They don't know they can protest. This is a software problem, people. This is a software problem. 60 people will not protest. because they didn't protest. What we discovered is 2525B. If the chief appraiser were to file a motion with the ARB to correct, well, technically he could correct 40,000 of them in the tier A parcels, the substantial increases, and we have a tier B, our chief appraiser has the ability to file a protest for my 60 other neighbors without them bringing in a protest. The CAD board can direct that. We used a greater than 40%. This is just greater than 40%. I believe the state talks about a greater than 10% being the stopgap. These numbers are based on greater than 40%. 3,000 parcels. We're talking about $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion of overappraisal right now. It exists. It exists in our world right now. Again, these are going to be numbers that Mitch is going to understand. Pace method versus flat method. The bottom line is it's a billion. It's a billion. We're talking about $1 billion in over-evaluation in Johnson County. Right now. And that's not Mitch's fault. That's not the board's fault. That's software. We can correct it. The board can correct it. Our chief appraiser can correct it. These are the levers our board can take right now. They can correct actions, methodology reports. They've already talked about reappraisals. They're already on this one. They have the capability to reject the current plan. What our board does not have is the data to make the decision as to whether this reappraisal plan is good or not. We don't have it. They don't have it. We have it. This software has it. I can plug in the reappraisal plan that's being offered up by the board tonight into this software and compare it to real-time sales data over the last 12 months and give you an accurate reappraisal plan based on the math. Just based on the math, based on the US PAP, based on the IAOO, and all the legislation. There's a pathway to do that now with the software. The board can direct the chief appraiser, pass resolutions requiring methodology justification. That's where we could step in to review the methodology, compare it across USPAP, IAOO, etc. Board's already talked about outside appraisals. Reject or revise, present independent findings. We do not have to use the comptroller's map. We don't have to use their property value study. Not if you have your own. You still have to use it and object to it with real, on the ground, real-time sales data that you have in Johnson County today is the proposal. Now, this says replace chief appraiser, and I spoke, hang on. I spoke to Mr. Fass before the meeting. He said, this presentation was built as a general presentation because it can be Johnson County, Tarrant County, Parker, Wise, any county. This is absolutely not directed toward Mr. Fast. In fact, don't do that. The roll launch is the engine that I spoke about just a few minutes ago that's built into the product right now, and it's real time, it's alive right now. If somebody at the CAD office were to plug something in and change a single number, the engine catches it. That's the real-time data that this board can have on their laptop, on their cell phone, all the time. Overwatch, 100%.
Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
let me ask you a question which is very pertinent to everybody here. As you did this, did you incorporate USPAP, Universal Standards for Professional Appraisal Practices?
Which is a lot. It's all built in to the engine. USPAP, IAOO, and all of the regulatory legislation relative to property taxes in Texas is built into the engine.
Thank you, sir.
USPAP compliant, 7 automated checks against standards 5 and 6 and ethics rules, specific to Mr. Stinson's question. 1,056 individual findings. We have each and every single parcel that does not meet the USPAP, itemized and categorized, and what it does not meet, whether it's 5, whether it's 6, whether it's 7, which parts. This is very detailed. It's very specific per parcel, every single parcel. This is the quantitative impact in terms of dollars for all of the parcels that do not meet USPAP or AIOO and others. I mean, add it up, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. 20, 40, 50, $70 million. For the lawyers, do we have lawyers present? This part's for you. Yeah. The full technical audit and parcel level findings, documentation demands, and download CSV exports are available at bridgeuspap.com, which is a USPAP specific piece of software that we developed that the attorneys, well, anybody can. I mean, my neighbors can. You can go here and look it up. It's available to everybody. This particular software product is one of 3. This one is built specifically for this board. Mr. Fast, giving us the amount of time, a lot of time he gave to us, helped us develop a product specific to the CAD board, which is much more detailed, much more specific, and a lot more information that most of us are not going to understand.
I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes, sir. Sure, go ahead.
Has this been,
Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, so has your software been tested by an independent testing agency?
Not yet. Not yet. Now, that's a great question. Back in January, we started a process with the state of Texas called TX Grant, which is a certification process for technology companies. We are at phase 2.
Yeah, phase 2 right now.
Phase 2 and ETA timeline of completion.
Hopefully by end of year.
Just a few more months, we will be TX Grant certified. Great question, Mr. Smith.
Yes. Can you build a new CAMA/GIS valuation platform from first principles in which every valuation is reproducible, every material input is preserved, Every methodology is documented, every change is attributable, every output is independently testable, and compliance risk testing occurs before the value is certified rather than after the taxpayers receive their bill.
The answer to the question is yes. Part B of the yes is a product that Mr. Fast helped us develop does exactly what you, well, most of, not all of, but most of what you just mentioned. And that's what we have, that's what I have actually up on deck right now. It's called the Bridge. I mean, this is where it started. The product I just presented to the board was made after this was already produced. We talked with our chief appraiser, and one of the big pain points was land aggregation failure. So we worked on that intensively, and now have and this will be news to Mr. Fast. We haven't talked since then, but we now have a working engine for land aggregation. It's the land aggregation validator. 107,000 or 10,766 property owners. The total impact, $2.7 million right now that could be corrected.
$2,790 million.
My bad, correct. Thank you for that.
And this is a different product that you were talking about a while ago.
That is correct.
Specifically a while ago, you said this is not a camera replacement. You're saying this on the board right now is a camera.
This, thank you for the correct, or let me correct that. This is not a GSA replacement. This is not a GSA replacement. Our whole goal at the outset of this, when we realized that Mitch's team was using two different softwares to try to come up with corrected values to get certified roles. We met with Mitch, we discussed his pain points, what the problems were between the two systems, and we came up with something to set between those two systems, ergo, the bridge. This would allow Jessica, Mitch, anybody in the office, instead of going back and forth between the two systems, to use the one system to get the answer they want, whether it's land aggregation, no matter what they want.
So the other one that you showed us though is what I would call a dashboard with key performance indicators on the dashboard for us to be able to see where things are going. This one is a bridge between that dashboard and the camera system.
That is correct.
Okay.
Fruit salad modifiers, we love that. We took that verbiage from our meeting with Mr. Fast. He mentioned fruit salad modifiers, and it just stuck. Lots of different ways to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fast, again, this is not my field of expertise. The modifiers, you have multiple modifiers that you can modify one single piece of property. Correct? That's correct representation?
That's a technique that was used in the legacy software system that was brought forward into the GSA software system.
Gotcha, perfect, thank you. This particular bridge will show you the modifier variance and the combined affected impact in terms of millions of dollars. Again, it's just a bridge. It sets between the two products, verified, and this is also USDAP compliant, AIOO 2525, all the legal and regulatory matters at hand that the CAD office has to dance around to try to meet. Very difficult dance. Again, this goes into each and every single property, specifically square footage. It's very intensive. I won't bore the public with it. Year-over-year spikes. This is this year. These are the numbers. I mean, just look at them and soak them in if you can. It's
Exactly what do you mean by spikes?
These are properties that went above the 40%.
So they're under
This is above 40%. This doesn't even talk about the 15s, the 20s, the 25s, the 30s. Yeah, it's staggering. Again, this is clear and convincing evidence of a software problem. It's a software problem. Left unaddressed, Johnson County, we're just going to pay it because nobody knows what to do about it. This software solves the problem for the CAD board. It's a system of checks and balances that's clear and available to anybody at any time.
Will your bridge product go ahead and get certified with the base programs? Any ideas? Yeah, like whatever it's plugged into. Meet same standards.
Yeah, that'll be by December. By the end of the year, we will have met the TX ramp certification.
The bridge was good.
It's the TX ramp certification is us as a company. AIOP. We are getting certified as a company to produce, any software for any CAD statewide, nationwide, in fact.
Yeah, that's why I asked it, because you're talking billions of dollars here at the end of the road.
Yes, sir. Right. Billions.
Is there any planning to go?
Jeff, this gentleman has his hand up.
Can I ask a question if I could go on that? I don't know if it's.
This is a presentation.
Yeah.
Right. Board members can ask questions, but.
Go ahead, Chris.
Is there any plans or thoughts going from beyond bridging to doing your own product?
The answer is yes. We started in January. The only reason I'm standing before the board today is because my property doubled in taxes this year.
That makes us very happy. We're glad you're here.
We have been developing it's called CAD lock. Okay? CAD lock is a technology built on same technology, won't get into that. CAD lock can replace every single software system in the state of Texas, all 255 counties. Okay? One single system that is transparent, immutable, auditable. That's when we started our ramp certification, was back in January, to prevent CAD lock as a GSA replacement, BIS replacement, all of them. That's our intent, is to replace all of them with a compliant system. A compliant system. There's not a single county in Texas that is USPAP compliant across the board. AIOO across the board. Not a single one of them. And that's not a knock on any county. That's a knock on the software. The technology was not built into the software to protect the taxpayer. I don't know if it was left out intentionally. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it doesn't exist, and the taxpayers are the ones paying the price in terms of hundreds of billions of dollars statewide. If we want to eliminate property taxes in Texas, do we even know what we're eliminating? The answer right now is no. To say eliminate property taxes is generic, but what are you eliminating? Right now, we can't even, there's not a county in Texas that can tell you what all that includes. It's so complicated. Nobody meets the standard. Nobody meets the legislation. Nobody meets the use path. We don't even know what we're eliminating. This product shows you exactly what's on the table. Every single parcel, every single piece of land, the home, everything. spike and coil spring, those are the terms we use. The spike is my property doubled this year. The coil spring is if I were 65 and had the 65 and older exemption, which, Mitch, I'm going to need you to correct me, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to fumble this one, as I did in your office that day. I talked to one of my neighbors who has the 65 exemption. Her response was, yeah, but it's not going to affect me because I have the 65 exemption. To which I said, oh, yes, it is. That's a coiled spring. You're going to realize 10% of that increase this year. And then another 10%, and then another 10%, and then another 10%. That's a coiled spring analogy.
I think that's understood. Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Go ahead. Just for the benefit of the room, because I'd rather not have that sit out there and have someone walk away with that being their understanding. Mitch, could you
Well, the over 65 exemption freezes the dollar amount of taxes at the time the property owner meets the 65-year threshold. That's a school district mandatory item. Many of the taxing units in Johnson County have adopted a local option, including the county and many of the cities. So if a property owner is in, say, Cleburne, I believe the city, the county, and the school district all are frozen at the dollar amount of taxes at the time of that person turns 65. The appraisal district still determines a market value, and that market value is still has a homestead cap applied to it. However, the tax bill is based upon the frozen dollar amount of taxes for each of those jurisdictions. And the only time that changes is when the property owner may build something new, they add a second building on the property or something along those lines, calculate the dollar amount of taxes for that change, and then that incorporates in their freeze and stays frozen at that level. That's how the over 65 works.
So I would say this before you go on. If you'd like to calculate what you're referring to as coiled spring, which means it's 10,000 rate, expand program, I think you can count homestead. Homestead is going to go up by 10%, and then 10, and then 10, until the time the other gets there. Over 65 is not. Take that out.
Perfect. Again, thank you for it. I'm a tech guy. I'm not an expert. Thank you very much for that correction. I do want to make one point, which I did make to my neighbor, which was, and she is 91 years old right now, and I asked her what her intentions with her property were, and she said she only leaves her son. Yeah. It's still a coiled spring because when she gives it to him, it bounces to full belt rate.
Unless he's yours.
She's 90, there's a good chance.
Just to help clarify that, I would change to the new owner's qualifications, so the value would be at market value when that person takes over.
Then it gets frozen.
Sorry, go ahead. No, there's a clarification. Go ahead.
I have a question. Can the product differentiate based upon net tax dollars owed annually versus valuation?
I can put that in there. It doesn't do it now. That's a simple add.
Yes.
This is where, this hasn't been built in yet, but I talked about it at the beginning in the slide presentation, was taking real world, real time, right now sales data as a CSV file, uploading it in here, and then the engine takes over from there and aggregates all of the information based on current sales data and compares it to what our tax roll right now states, and looks for it and will flag in bar and graphs as well as written form the changes that need to be made to to be compliant with use path and IAOO. That's
a question for you. There's a heck of a lot of arithmetic going on here. Will this be hosted by you in a central location and we're tied out to the customer, or how will that work?
The intention, the ultimate goal would be that it be hosted at the CAD office. Right now, this is hosted on one of my supercomputers at my home. All of this data sits there. We would prefer that Mr. Fast and the CAD office host it internally.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I was asking.
Yes, sir.
Because if it was a remotely reached operation, it's going to be more complicated.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Do you have any idea how much of a box you need to run this thing?
Exactly right. Yes, sir.
Great. Tell me, please. Because
are you and Matt? Because I saw everybody here.
oh, computers. They're good.
They are all computers. Specific to Mac, Mac has a specific silicon chip that is very particular to the software that we use. While all computers are computers, what we built and how it operates is very specific to Mac silicon. You can't get it through HP. You can't get it through anybody else. That's why I was mentioning Mac. The ultimate goal here for us, our team, we've spent the last 72 hours discussing, how can we be most beneficial to our neighbors, to the CAD board, to Mr. Fast and his team. Is it a piece of software that we sell to you guys? That was the first thought. That's the original thought with the product we started building back in January. I'm not going to talk about that today. It's our intention. We believe that with the complexity of the complex nature of what's taking place in the CAD board right now between the two systems, this is not really something that we believe we could just say, hey, write us a check for $10. We're going to ship you the box and the code and have a nice day. This is very complex, not from a central appraisal district and all the things they get. This is very complex on the back end. The wiring, the coding that's built into this is infinitely more complex. You're the IT guy. You're a Python, Jake. What are you fluent in?
Python.
Yeah. This is Python on steroids. It doesn't exist right now. We would offer to the board that you bring our team into the CAD.
That's goes without saying. You can't just ship the box and expect to
No. We would come in for a small amount of time. We're of the consensus that we can have it up and running, IT guys trained, front desk trained, everybody trained, within 90 days. Within 90 days. That's the idea right now. We believe that to be the best, most efficient, most practical process to move forward with. We want Johnson County to be the flagship for Texas. The flagship. When this is implemented into the system, we are already working with Brazoria County right now. We're already building theirs. They took a look at this one, they won it. I say they, a couple of people won it. But what they're trying to make is bring my team into the CAD office, let us partner with Mitch and his team, get this system online within 90 days, and then we're not going to have to worry about whether we're doing a 2-year appraisal or a 3-year appraisal. We can do a 30-day appraisal, a 90-day appraisal, a real time, right now, these are the numbers, this is the map appraisal, anytime we want.
Mr. Marshall, one of the things that I think ease everybody's mind, would you be able to take this past appraisal and run it through your system to
Absolutely.
get accurate valuations where they should be?
100%. In fact, when you guys were discussing it, I made a note. Back here to pull it up and look at exactly that, to do exactly that. Yes. This pretty much concludes the presentation of the product itself, so I'll take questions from anybody that has questions.
I'm fascinated by a lot of this. One of the things I was interested in, he makes an assertion regarding Sundance homes where you live. Did you actually look to determine that those 5 homes or the 60 homes were statistically representative of the over 3,000 properties that you were applying?
Yes, I did, and the time is close. We've done the same statistical analysis on all 106,000 parcels. Sundance is an aberration. That's why we're calling it a software problem. This reads just like a software glitch. Correct me, Mr. Bass, is there an audit trail with GSA?
Yes.
Okay. I could not find it to be able to answer if that was a software glitch, was it manual overrides, perhaps an audit of Sundance could answer that. I can't.
That's exactly what I was actually done because, yeah, forensically, you've got to be able to go back and figure out what will,
This audit's forever.
Or John, what was missing? What was lacking is equally important because something in the system is lacking because we're in the mess we are.
I'm also curious how your system could distinguish between a legitimate 40% increase caused by new construction or contractions or anything else versus an erroneous appraisal.
No, that's a great question. And that was part of our process as we refined was to remove all new construction. New construction numbers are not in this data. They were to begin with when the engine first started, and we caught that and we saw that and we removed it. There's no new construction in here. The new construction definitely skews the data.
Well, sometimes there are also, I've only learned this last year, sometimes there were erroneous appraisals before, and they simply corrected them.
That's definitely can happen as well. If that happens now, if this system's in place and something gets overwritten or changed, again, any number that moves, the engine captures it. The engine captures it in real time, and there's an audit trail to it. Was it a manual override? Did the software move it? It's caught immediately. That was one of the things I was picking up. I was trying to make the point about at the beginning is for the board members, you've got it on your laptop in real time, 24 days, 7 days a week. This engine's working. It does not stop processing.
well, yeah, we'll do a variance report, right? So you just run a variance report.
I believe
That's really the only thing useful on that sort of thing. I've done this before in company else.
can absolutely add that. And Sean, do we have a variance report built in yet?
Not yet, but.
Not yet. We talked about it. We have not done. Super simple to add. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wish I got involved in the middle of it. Didn't have to work myself. Anyway, yeah, we need a variance report.
Noted. Any other questions?
If we have no other questions, say what else.
That's true.
Yeah.
We must really like you. We've never had a presentation this long.
I'm such a geek.
I want to personally thank you, Mr. Marshall. I know this has started as a labor of love to help your neighbors. I know you have benefited from it financially because of your heart, and we appreciate it. The fact that you take time to meet with the chief appraiser and to tweak this to the point that it can benefit us, because I think I can speak for myself, and I'm sure some of the board members have not been happy with the appraisals come out, because we had to do a lot of ARB hearings, a lot of people like yourself had to go down to the office. And so if this can recalibrate what is already done, and we can end up with the true values, I think we don't even know how to thank you.
I would be more than happy, thank you, Mr. President, our team would be more than happy to be at the board with this board, with the CAD, okay, and do it in real time in front of you, and you can see it work. Sure. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
At this point, we'll move on to agenda item 4. And agenda item 4 is to review, discuss, and consider taking action on the approval of the 2026 budget amendment. With that,
At the, I believe it was the, May meeting, the 2025 financial audit was prepared by JRPT and presented to the board of directors, and it was determined that there was a substantial surplus in the 2025 appraisal year, totaling $1,140,430. At a subsequent meeting, the board took action to amend the 2026 budget to account for this surplus that requires the taxing jurisdictions to be notified. And in the board book is a letter dated June 19th that shows the information that is included here on the budget surplus. The entities could then either not do anything or basically file a resolution that would disapprove the budget amendment. I did not receive any such resolutions, and so at this time the board could act to move those funds into the 2026 budget and most likely in the building replacement reserve account.
Yeah, I'd like to say as chairman of the Finance and Budget Subcommittee, I looked at this very carefully. We're very fortunate to have been able to underrun our budget significantly last year, in large part to Brittany and Amy, folks that were in the office and able to operate without a ranger, without a lot of the other positions that we normally have. And so we really appreciate that. But based on that information, I would like to move that we accept this change to the budget.
so applying the 2025 excess funds directly to the 26 budget.
Correct. They stated in the letter, AQ 1226.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And item 5 is review and discuss the approval of a facilities assessment long-range planning report proposal provider regarding the office building acquisition process and take action as appropriate. We have an item in our agenda materials. Would you like to present on that, Mr.?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, as chairman of that committee, I want to thank Mr. Tremble and Mr. Saunders and Jason here. We've all put a lot of sweat and equity into trying to make sure that the new office is gone, the old office is gone, and we have a better newer facility. And I just want to say in all our research, I spent some time on the phone today with the city manager, Cleaver, and after I spoke with him, he's going to vote for it. And he just didn't want to know in particular. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trammell and Larry will take over.
Okay.
If I may, be cautious, we got that as an executive session item as well. If there's anything outside of what needs to be here, we can discuss it there.
And that's
Yes. Right.
Yeah, I think the the only thing I want to report here is in the July 24th board meeting, which some of you were at the subcommittee, evaluated 3 options for a new facility. We looked at refurbishing the existing facility. We looked at buying land and erecting a new building. And we looked at buying an existing facility to reconfigure to our needs. And after evaluation, we all agreed to move ahead with the 3rd option. And as reflected in the board minutes, July 24th, the board authorized the committee to negotiate an offer to purchase an appropriate property, authorizes to obtain financing, with the chief appraiser, seek the necessary approvals from the participating taxing entities, each already. So we've done that. We located an appropriate facility. We made an offer on the facility substantially below the asking price, and we were able to obtain seller acceptance of our offer. We have a 60-day feasibility period for that, so we're comfortable with that. We have already applied for financing, and we received preliminary approval. Also, there was board resolution executed for the acquisition that we talked about just a moment ago. Yesterday, Chris Humberstein met with the building inspector. Go through the building. He reported no significant findings. We'll have a full inspection report to us within a few days. And finally, our chief appraiser provided a request for approval to the taxing entities. As he said, and as Peter said, received they're contacting us intermittently, I would say. So the next steps are we're going to meet with the taxing entities as they may request, noting that approval is required from at least 75% of the community to move ahead with the acquisition. We're also going to support the chief appraiser to, number 1, select a vendor to help us evaluate facility requirements and floor plan layout, etc. And then we'll have to select a vendor eventually to finish out the space for that new floor plan. And then plan for necessary furniture, pictures, equipment, and what's slotting next to each other. So we're going to remain engaged in the closing process to ensure all requirements are met, and remain engaged in the financing cycle to close in the terms that will be acceptable to us. That's all I have.
In the meantime, we do have a proposal from Park Hill. That's item 5. This is item 5 on the agenda. Is to review and discuss the Park Hill proposal for planning purposes.
Yes, that's right. Roll into that.
Yeah, that's item wrong.
Oh, okay. That's
okay.
Okay, so our recommendation from the subcommittee standpoint is we talked to 2 different vendors that have been sort of down selected from the initial 3. And we're recommending that we leave that up to our chief appraiser, Mitch Bass, to get with Park Hill and Freeze Nichols and decide which one would be most appropriate for the new scope that we are now going to require, because the old scope was written when we were looking at buying land and building.
I was going to ask that question because as I read the Park Hill proposal that they sent, it's like, well, up to chief size. Like, what if we only want one?
They didn't change it. They just didn't.
So in order to do that, ask council, we want to direct the chief appraiser to enter into a professional services agreement with a firm that would provide these services. Do you need to give a receipt or?
I would recommend that there were some that were mentioned that had suggestions, but I would do it as a motion. I would make a recommendation to the chief. And I don't know what amount that you have, but I include an amount not to exceed any interest.
Okay.
Discuss that in the closed session.
No, here.
No. Okay.
This is for the planning purposes. This is the workflow and stage analysis. We have heard from 3 companies.
So we use the numbers.
Right, yeah.
So I would then make a motion.
Maybe we have one second. Is this something we want to wait? Well, I'm fine with making a motion, but is this something we want to wait to actually execute until we know for sure we've got that specific property? Like, I know we've got a property like locked in, but until we know for sure that the deal is going to go through.
We can't wait for another board meeting because
Because of the review period on the escrow.
Yeah, we have a review period for escrow, and so we've got to be able to get into this building. And we won't know how much we need to spend on the,
Yeah.
for the building out.
Yeah, will the space really work and at what cost? And that's the piece of information.
I agree, and I want to go back and revisit.
Mr. Bass, there's a, oh, I'm sorry.
I want to go back and revisit the not to exceed. There is a municipal code that requires that it's over a threshold, then we'll have to go out for an RFP on it,
What's the threshold?
100,000.
Okay,
So
so
we need to keep in mind,
because I'm recommending 75.
It's going to be the first meeting where all 3, you can hear anything else from Freeze Nichols?
They did respond that they felt the scope as presented after that meeting involved architectural services. And for architectural services, there's a section 22.54 of the local government code, and it suggests that you not consider the fee upon making the decision of the selected vendor. In talking with our counsel, Matthew Tepper, board's counsel, Matthew Tepper, he didn't feel like the scope included architectural services, and we kind of moved forward with that. I responded to Freeze Nichols, and at this point, they declined to submit a secondary scope response.
So we have Park Hill.
And Mr. Bass, isn't there a 30-day limitation on the entities to respond?
Yes.
For approval of the acquisition of real property, the entities do have 30 days from the date we sent the notice. Because of the way some of the meetings line up, we basically sent about a third of them on basically Tuesday. That's when we sent Tuesday or Wednesday. And the folks that received them have a meeting in the early part of September, and so they can do that, and then the remaining will be sent the following week to catch the ones that have meetings later on in the year. They'll allow them 30 days to consider that.
And if we don't hear from them within 30 days, then it's a vote yes, correct?
Correct. They have to respond with a resolution not approving it to council.
Okay. So I would still like to make a motion that for workflow and facility planning, that we delegate to the chief appraiser the authority to engage the firm of his choosing up to $75,000.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. And Ms. Chairman, along with our dealing and stuff, we have a gentleman that we had voted on about procuring the old building, and there was supposed to be a letter sent out. Did you make a motion, Mr. Trevor? Second approved. So our attorney, has that letter been sent out to Mr. Chris Maddox?
I have been advised since Mr. JoCo,
Because he's here tonight. Okay. Thank you.
I think for our subcommittee reports, for our ARP subcommittee, Mr. Saunders, your report.
We're hoping by early completed by the end of September for the hearing.
Oh, we mean all the hearings would be concluded by
Yes.
end of September. Great.
And I want to compliment Mr. Saunders, Mr. Bass on, I was down there yesterday and I went in and there were several POP board members, not a form by any means, but they were all thrilled. They thought the sound was good. They still probably like to have a door, but they loved the fact that they could sit and actually talk to the people that came in. So thank you, gentlemen, for getting that done.
Thank you. Mr. Trump, anything for budget and
So
finance?
for budget finance, we just passed the resolution to accept the change to the budget. That's all we have.
Mr. Stetson, communications?
Yes, I think the office has been really good about communicating everything that's been going on right now. And when the appropriate time comes, I guess we'll post the fact about the new building, but that's still early. So I think, Amy, is there anything we're missing on the website that needs to be posted?
There's always something else. We're trying to keep it all up, but I'm sure that there's something.
Okay, we're good for now.
Okay. Nothing on the new CAD office at this point. For the future, we can remove the policies from the agenda policy subcommittee. And the reappraisal plan, Mr. Trump, we go to take that off for the timing. Take that off for the timing. And then we'll move to item 3B, our taxpayer liaison officer report. Ms. Lingo?
I would just ask you a question on my report. Nothing that I can think of is just allergy this month. Its website was down, staff was very responsive and trying to get back up. I'm sure it's stressful for you guys when it was down.
Mitch, can you give her the mic, please?
There's a lot of taxpayer inquiries that needed motions for corrections, needed guidance on filing different documents with the CAD office and how to protest their values or the steps to take. That was probably the majority of taxpayer phone calls this month. I don't know.
Ms. Lingo, on the church exemption, you know, that was finished up or all?
I don't think it's been finished up yet. I did send him all of the information he would need to file his documents and we'll see what we can get worked out. I put no as a follow-up, but I'll probably give him a call just because I'm curious to see what, how far back maybe he could go with it. And that was just, I'll leave it at that. Any other questions?
One for Mitch on, you have a request for information on Phil on the 15th of July. Really not looking for a solid answer out of Mitch, but you listed a bunch of things that we want to give taxpayers and things like that. Just kind of have a time frame of when we might be achieving that. You don't have to give me an answer today, but. So maybe next meeting responds to that? Okay.
That does bring up a point since you said that. One thing that did stand out is some inconsistencies with information when it is requested by taxpayers. Some were given land schedules, some were not, comp grids, things like that. There were at least two taxpayers, I believe, that went into the appraisal district for their formals, so there was some confusion there. Everything, as it came up, though, Mitch and the staff addressed.
That's all the questions. Okay. Thank you, Amy. And then we'll move to our supervisor report. Mr. Bass, and you've got a couple items.
So I'm on page 192 of the board book. It shows on July 27th, we sent out the certification estimate. As I mentioned, we weren't quite at the 95 percentile. We were close, we were at 94.78. I did ask legal counsel about does that equal 95 or not, and the decision was no, that is not 95%. And so we went ahead and did a certification estimate, which basically that is the numbers that will be used for the rate calculation for most jurisdictions. They all received a packet. On the page 193 is what we call a cover letter, and it had information that they used to do the calculations. This process was quite involved to get through. Once again, it's a first-year project with the new software, and we learned quite a bit about that process. So we sent that out, and with the idea that the taxing jurisdictions could have confidence in these numbers because it was close to at 95% as possible. So that was the certification part of it. Pages 194 and 195 show the protest activity, and it's got a multi-year comparison, 2026, as it stood on August 3rd, which there still can be protests filed, especially what are called late protests. Folks have until January 31st to file certain protests under 2525 motions. And we're not breaking those out in this analysis, but showing as of that date, we had 25,266 properties protested. That was slightly lower than 2025, but higher than the previous 4 years. We have the numbers that were settled at an informal with an appraiser. Kind of more the same, that not the highest, but close in those numbers. Settlement waivers are formally filed protests that are resolved without an ARB hearing. Our highest number there, 8,000, and much higher than we've seen in the past, which I think shows the staff's willingness to try to review the data that property owners are providing and make appropriate decisions. The appraisal review board determination of top lines. Those are the most numbers we've seen over the past since 2021. The no-show report showed 351. I think
It's much lower.
yeah, I might want to do a little bit more research into that number and then withdraw the lowest number of withdrawals so far. So those were the stats as we pulled out of the GSA software as of August 3rd. And as was mentioned earlier, it does, last report was all of the timely filed protests were scheduled and prior to September. Property owners can still reschedule things, so there may be, and still file protests. There may be the need for ARB hearings once or twice a month going into September, October, November, December as needed, but I think everybody's pleased with the amount of work that's been gone through there. The next section is the stratification report, and Brittany, can you remind me of what the date was that this runs through?
January 1st, 2025, so
August 6th? Which really is probably about all of May, perhaps some of June, because there's a lag between deeds getting filed with the county clerk's office, that information being brought into the appraisal district, and then any sales information associated with it. But where there's sales information and there are categories that are kind of known, we talk about category A, E, F, and B. Those are the typical ones that we discussed. Category A, residential. Category B is multifamily. Category E is rural residential. And category F is commercial. It shows where our ratios are at. So that's what the appraisal looks like at this point for each of those jurisdictions. Many of the residential are close to 100%, but not above that. I do see Burleson ISD has a 101, so they're slightly above of that. Many of the other stratifications just don't have enough sales information to have a lot of confidence in the calculation. You know, 1 or 2 sales can kind of bounce all over the place. The more data you have, the smoother the line becomes there. But we're keeping track of this information and trying to create an appraisal rule that is accurate, and that's one of the ways we do that. And then what we call the board report is the final thing, and that shows we did create the new years, so people are now working in 2027. Once you certify the appraisal rule, you create the next year. So we created 2027, and then in this book there's a percentage change from 25 to 26. We're still working with GSA to provide a new value category breakdown that we could back out from these numbers to determine what did the non-new construction percentages look like. We can get that as one big number, but not broken out by category, which we've had that request on the table with them for quite some time. Thought we were making some progress, but they're still not been able to produce that for us. But so that's the Chief Appraiser report for August.
Any questions? Warren?
I have a question. Due to what we heard tonight, there seems some discrepancies with the software. I don't feel comfortable about these values if they're not correct. And so, do we have any action where we can go and make sure that the values are correct?
Well, the way we do a valuation for residential property, let's say, is we create a equation that is the replacement cost less depreciation times the market factor plus land value equals market value, and then we compare that to the sale price in all those examples. So that's kind of reflected in our stratification report, that within those areas, which it's a large grouping by school district, that's not how the actual market factor is determined. That's by neighborhood, and the neighborhood is for block subdivisions are denoted by the subdivision, and anything in that subdivision has the first 4, the GeoID code is 126.4444. And so that's the neighborhood that is presently used for the rural residential, or anything with an abstract legal description. Those are grouped into the same way. That's 126.4-digit number there. That's their neighborhood. And all those are utilized in that transaction to determine what is the correct market factor that gets all those sales as close to 100% as possible. Some of the problems with the valuation models involve these modifiers that have been used in the past to index these cost numbers, and then once those modifiers are in place, they're basically adjusting a cost number, and then applying a market factor to that can produce some unusual results. And when there's an extremely large market factor, that is where a lot of the problem lies. So one of the things we're doing right now is researching the areas that have large market factors, and to determine why that was, what sales information are in there, and what our course of action may be for 2027, as well as if there's any pathway to address that in 2026. So that is stuff that we're researching, and we're using the basically process I described.
Okay, before. So with the process you described, how do you explain what Mr. Marshall explained about the Sundance addition and the large discrepancy?
That's a neighborhood that has a low replacement cost number. I think it's $60 a square foot or $50 a square foot to rebuild the house, and it's adjusted by a modifier to raise that number up. And then the market factor was changed from something like a 1 to a 2, which basically is adding 100% to the value of the property. And that should have been caught by the appraiser during the review process. However, one of the ways they had been trained in the past is that's how you adjust values, is you increase that market factor. The reappraisal process that we have in the reappraisal plan talks about correcting the cost number to reflect the actual replacement cost values, removing all the modifiers, doing that calculation again, and your market factor should be somewhere between 0.90 and 1.2. That would be the expected range, because essentially, if you're saying that you take your cost numbers and add a 200% market adjustment to it, that's saying that we could make 200% on every house that gets built. And my quote is always, what are we doing saying here? We want to get out there and start building. So it's basically training the appraisers to recognize these things that should be reviewed before the appraisal process is completed. And so we're going to have training on that, as well as benchmarking property classification systems and putting in depreciation tables that take into consideration both actual and effective year of construction. And those are some things that will improve the kind of the way that modeling is done in many mass appraisal applications.
My last question is, are you opposed to working with Mr. Marshall on this bridge?
That's not an item on the agenda for discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. With that, if there's no other questions for Mr. Bass, then we'll be adjourning into executive session pursuant to sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.076 of the Texas Government Code. If there is any action.
I have a question. Okay, I did, thank you. I don't know how, when I'm supposed to talk about this, but.
At the beginning, when I asked you to turn in a slip to speak at the beginning, there's a portion of the meeting for public
Okay, well,
comment.
I asked Amy, so I'm supposed to, that's it.
Did you want to make a comment?
I just want to ask something about price.
Is that something that a staff member can ask for you? Because it's not something that typically the board is able to answer.
Okay, well, it came before the appraisal district 2 or 3 times. I'll talk about
Talk to Mr. Bass.
Mr. McFast about it.
Yeah, let me know how it goes.
Okay.
Let me know how it goes.
Staff is more than happy to.
Well, no, I mean, I'm scared with him, I don't have to draw his time out. Mr.
Be sure you ask for Jessica, and everything will be okay.
Well, the one thing I would say is that the board, we are prohibited from getting involved in any property owners' property taxes. So that's
I'm
something.
not.
Understand that.
I was leery about coming down here to start with, and Craig talked me into it, because I had bad experience with people that were there before.
We're all nice.
And I fraud you, you're all okay.
Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Marshall's got my head full of stuff, I didn't even work out.
Yeah, well, you're not alone, sir. And if we have any actions required, we'll report that.
Gentlemen,